I don't know, Jeff. We just didn't have a good game tonight. We didn't have it from the beginning to the end. It's just one of those games where nothing went right for us.
Andy, that was Brandon Staley, the head coach of the San Diego Chargers, who got, I'm not sure the quite way to say it. They lost 63-21 to the Las Vegas Raiders, who just 4 days ago lost the game 3-0, Andy. So you go, they obviously didn't have it. They haven't had it for a long time, but what an epic quote, Andy. What do you think?
One, I think you got the same problem I do, Dave. We keep calling him San Diego, and we're not accepting
Oh,
that it's LA. Hey, I can't get used to it either. Still years in now, but I mean, I look, I didn't care about that game. Had no interest in paying attention to it. But was just looking at threads real quick, and I see Ian Rappaport pop up with it's 42-0 at halftime, and I was like, wait, what? Who's playing football tonight? Like I didn't even know what was going on. And I looked at it, I know, and I was like, holy smokes! And then I started paying attention. Unbelievable, right? I mean, the Raiders put up a goose egg against the Minnesota Vikings, who like aren't the top defense in the NFL. I mean, it was a terrible game. Like you said, Dave, that was just a couple days ago. Turned around today and just absolutely demolished Los Angeles. Unbelievable. So I mean, look, Brandon Staley has been on the hot seat for a while. I mean, you could say a couple seasons. He was really on the hot seat this season, and things have not been going well. Dave, does Brandon Staley have a job on Monday?
I'm surprised he made the plane ride back because frankly, that's fireable offense. Like, look, let me just recap here, Andy, the scores that the Raiders have had over the last month. They won 16-12 against the Jets. They lost 20-13 to the Dolphins. They lost 31-17 to the Chiefs. And as we just mentioned, they lost 3-0 to the Vikings just last Sunday. These are Thursday night games. These are typically very bad games. I'm going to ask you what you think about Thursday night games in the first place, but these are
Yeah.
typically bad games. This Raiders team hasn't put up 20 points in over a month, and they put up 21 in the first quarter, 42 by halftime, 63 point. I mean, what what is I'm surprised he made it out of halftime and came out for the second half, Andy.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people joking about that, right? Like just give Kellen Moore the reins like at halftime. He can't
I
do
don't know
any
if you want to
worse.
do that though, Andy.
So it's yeah, I mean I feel bad for that franchise. They've had some very talented quarterbacks throwing the ball there. I mean for going into decades here, and they cannot win football games. Coaching has been a problem in Los Angeles. And look, it's a talented team. It's a I mean it's Los Angeles, right? It's not like I mean the Rams aren't the most beloved team. There's opportunity to have success in one of the country's biggest markets and just cannot get it done. So, look, I still think, though, despite the Lions' troubles, I still think Ben Johnson is a strong candidate to take the reins in Los Angeles. To be honest with you, I think that might happen next season. But I don't know. Tough
Yeah.
loss, brutal loss. Feel bad for those players. It's hard to wake up on Friday morning when you got devastated on national TV against a division rival. Tough. Two teams, Dave, that I should know. The Lions beat. Lions beat
Yeah.
both those. So, the quick fun fact there: the Lions Broncos game this weekend, Saturday night. Whoever wins that game will have swept the other's entire division, right? Which
Oh,
was
that's interesting.
yeah, we would not have guessed that. Would not have guessed that for the Lions starting the season out. Playing Kansas City and was supposed to be a good Los Angeles team and maybe a decent Raiders team. Weren't expecting that. And then if you had asked anybody 6 weeks ago if the Broncos were sweeping the entire NFC North, just if they were going to win a game again, nobody would have thought that either. And
Yeah.
suddenly they're in a great position. So interesting little fact there.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the Chargers here, but I do think that if you go think about like disastrous sports moves in a long time, I think the move from San Diego to Los Angeles was one of the worst. One, they had a really good fan
Yeah,
base there.
yeah,
San Diego is a beautiful city. It's not as crazy as Los Angeles. They moved to Los Angeles where the Rams had just moved to. They share a stadium, everyone knows that in Los Angeles, there's not the hometown football team like there are in other places. Look, everyone loves the Raiders or the Dodgers. Everyone loves the Lakers. They don't love the Clippers. The Chargers are the Clippers to
Yeah,
the in that comparison there. Like you went there, you don't have a home fan base. You lost that great crowd from San Diego. Now every team that plays you, effectively the other team out, has more in attendance than you do. And
yeah,
I think like what a disaster. They deserve it. I think this is just an op where the owner got greedy and he got to a point where he didn't think he wanted to play in a stadium that they didn't deserve. And so he moved and now they're in a beautiful stadium, but they stink
yeah.
and they deserve what they get.
And nobody cares that they're there.
And nobody cares that they're there. That's true. So, Andy, we've got a lot to go through today. There's a couple things that we want to hit on. I did just want to quickly on the wrap up the football thing on today. What do you think about Thursday night games? Are you in on or out on those? Are you generally watching those or what?
No, I don't
Yeah.
watch them unless it's the Lions game, to be honest. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't love it because I'd like to be able to sit and watch, all the games, on Sunday as much as possible. You got Monday night, obviously. Like I mean, you look at this week, we got NFL 4 days of NFL football, right? You got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday. It's just a lot. And
Yeah.
as much as I love the NFL, I'm not going to sit there and watch, 20 hours of NFL games, and there's other things to do. So I'm not a huge fan. I'm fine with it because most somebody's, I just don't watch, don't care. Hopefully I adjust my fantasy team before the Thursday night game kicks off. But yeah, don't care much, to be honest.
Yeah, the Saturday game is like now there's three Saturday games. It's the early, mid, and late one.
Yeah,
I'll probably have it on in the background, but it's not the same as Sunday where you can, I love Red Zone. You can like the thing is if you have a bad Saturday game or a bad Thursday game, you just don't watch. But
yeah,
if you like on Sundays, you have multiple options there. If you
yeah.
have a bad game, you've got Red Zone to go to. You can flip around to other things. I just don't like that setup where it's only exclusive. I feel the same way about college football. I love college football, but the thing I like most about it is that when you have a bad game or something, there's always another one you can go
Right.
to. But then when you get to these ones where it's like the bowl game and it's just not as interesting if the game is not really that good. So
Yeah.
you just move on from it. So all right, Andy. So we'll talk through that, and we got a couple other things to go to. Andy, where do you want to start? You want to start with a movie, or you want to start with baseball contracts? Where do you want to go, Andy?
You know
I'll
what,
give.
dude? Let's we're talking football, we're talking
Yeah.
dollars and cents. I think there's a good discussion to have here. So let's pivot. Let's talk baseball.
Okay, let's talk baseball. And Andy, we didn't get to it on Monday, but over last weekend, the big drama was Shohei Ohtani, the superstar player from Japan who's been playing the last several years in Los Angeles with the Angels. Speaking of another team, in trying to share a market, the Dodgers are clearly the marquee name there, and the Angels are like the redheaded child or something on the side there. No offense to redheaded stepchilds or anything like that, but you have Shohei Ohtani who made a big decision. He's great. He's a great pitcher. He's a great overall player. He's won MVP. He's just great. Signed a 10-year, $700 million contract to play with, surprising, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who already boast Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, a host of others. They are this century's New York Yankees from the previous. I mean, they're great. They've only won one World Series in the last decade. They've been to three, only won one. But this clearly sets them ahead. But 10 years, $70 million, Andy, that's more than three other teams had as payrolls last year, and he's going to make that in a season. But it
Yeah.
gets even crazier, Andy. He's decided to defer his money 70 years or $70 million a year. He's making $2 million a year for a period of time and then goes to defer the rest of the pay over the years after, most likely when he's retired and no longer playing baseball. So let's pause there, Andy. What do you think about this Shohei Ohtani contract?
Yeah, so I like it. I like it for a lot
Yeah.
of reasons. Like one, I think it's a smart move for a player in general, season life, because it gives them less money to blow while they're more likely to blow it, and gives them he's the guy set, right? He can retire. I don't know how old he is, but in his 30s here, and receive a ton of money, for 10 years. Like that's great in of itself. What I really like, Dave, as we were talking in the before the show started, like the tax implications are significant, right? Because I like to point out how terrible California is for business and taxes, and it is. I mean, genuinely, it's awful, right? So California is the highest tax rate in the country, which is insane, right? And so you look at, some players have gone to teams, for example, in Las Vegas because there is no state income tax, right?
Florida
So
the same way. Florida's the same way.
yeah, and I mean, if I'm a pro athlete and I'm making, a huge contract, like that's definitely an incentive for me to go play for the Dolphins, right, or go play for the Raiders. Although I don't think anybody wants to play for the Raiders for their win last night, but they might now. But it's a huge incentive, and it's a huge reason to not play in California, right? I mean, you're talking a huge contract, and how much that are going to give to Gavin Newsom and Sacramento. You don't want to do that, right? So I think it's a smart move. And I think it's a good opportunity for California to think about their awful tax rate and what that means, because it makes it hard for people to live there. That's why one of the many reasons why people are leaving the state. It's just a hard place to do business, and it's a hard place to keep your money in your pocket for the state to build, really failed high-speed rail systems that cost billions and billions of dollars. So that's a whole nother story. We won't get into that, but I like the contract. It's a smart move. I applaud him for doing it. It's an insane amount of money.
How do you feel about the insane amount of money? Like, look, this is not just in baseball and in basketball. They have the supermax contracts where
Yeah.
players can make after a certain period, they're eligible for a certain amount of money. Jalen Brown this last year signed, I think it was 5 years, 300 million. It graduates to the point where the last year is $70 million. He or with 69.1 or something $1 million. Effectively, he's making $70 million a year. Jalen Brown is a good player, probably not top 10 player in
Yeah.
the NBA. Definitely maybe top 15, 20 around that range or whatever. $70 million, this is crazy. And I think it's all back to TV rights.
Yeah.
Like the TV networks have paid tons of money, and the sports have exploited that. I mean, they hold hostage for, like, they give Amazon. We talked about this Thursday night football game. Amazon paid a lot of money for one game a week.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of these networks are paying or just trying to get one game a week, or like one playoff series or something, because they know they can promote so much of the thing. How do you feel about, these sports players? Hey, look, when we were growing up, it was, if you were making $1 million a year, that was front page news. The
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated used, like in the 80s, Sports Illustrated used to publish all the salaries of people above $1 million. And that was crazy. And now we're $70 million a year. Granted, Shohei Ohtani's pretty great, but man, that's a lot of money.
I'm all for it. I mean, well, with a caveat, one, so I do like salary caps in leagues, not to limit players' opportunity to make it, more equitable across the leagues, to make more competitive matches. I like it for that reason, right? You don't want to see like baseball doesn't have that, and you've got teams that stink and always stink, and you've got teams that dominate and always dominate. That's not that fun, to be honest.
Right.
Right? So I like the NFL's model of some shared revenue, salary caps. It makes it much more competitive, and you're seeing that in an NFL season that's bonkers, right? Everybody's 7-6 or whatever right now. So I like that, but not for the purpose of limiting the player's opportunity. I mean, look, sports make an insane amount of money. They feed a host of industries, from apparel to gambling. I mean, so much comes out of the sports. There's money to be made, and we as fans have a choice of how much we're willing to spend, right? I mean, I'll pay for a game to go to an NFL game every year. I'm paying for more streaming sources than I'd care to watch NFL games. As long as suckers like me are willing to pay to enjoy the sport, the league's making a ton of money. The players should be able to get whatever they can get out of that. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm all for it. If you've got a skill set, look at what happened with Jalen Hurts and Lamar of this offseason, right? Lamar won a big contract, wasn't getting any progress. Jalen signs a big contract. Lamar comes right in behind him, It's a very similar contract. That's what the market demands, right? For that kind of talent. Hey, you know what? If you can do that, if you can get that out of your sports league, NFL, NBA, NHL, whatever, power to you, right? Whether you're Messi down in Miami making a ton of money playing pro soccer, you're Lamar Jackson playing pro football, you're a baseball player, you're a hockey player. I'm fine with it. If you can earn it, God bless, enjoy it, and have fun with your money, and defer it, and don't do it in the state of California.
Yeah, it's fair points, Andy. I don't disagree. I do. You brought up a really good point early, and it's talking about the different market teams. And look, as an Orioles fan, it's pretty well known. I mean, we had less than $70 million a year for our contract. We have a great team. I'm
Yeah.
worried that my owner's not going to pay for Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Grayson Rodriguez. I'm worried we're not going to pay those players and they're going to go somewhere else, and we're just stuck in this cycle of not being there. I wish baseball had a salary cap, because I think what happens in football is so good. I mean, I think to have everybody having a shot, I mean, that means something, and I think that's really good. So, Andy, before we wrap up on that one, any final thoughts on the contract craziness?
No, Dave, I'm good. I'm ready to move forward with you.
Okay. There we go. I love it. You're getting better each day. Each day who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
That's right.
Us Gen Xers, Andy, we were, we can do it. So, all right, Andy, let's move to another pop culture type of thing. And no, we're not going to talk about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and whether or not Taylor is responsible for Travis's decline. He is 34, playing a tough position, and Taylor is the person of the year. We won't get into that, Andy, at all. But let's talk about movies. Are you
Okay.
excited?
All right.
Are you excited about any movies coming up here? This is usually like the holidays are usually a great time for movies. And I'm going to be honest with you, I can barely count any that I even know about or being released. What
Yeah.
do you?
So, I used to, like, when I growing up, we'd go do a movie on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Enjoy that. I still remember sliding down a hill in one snowstorm where we still tried to go to the movies and could barely make it. Over the years, my family and I always enjoyed movies around the holidays. We've always enjoyed going to the movies. That did change some, with COVID, and I think we're one of many families that didn't fully bounce back into the movie experience post COVID. We really did get kind of comfortable streaming and watching things at home, and I paid less attention, and so I think there's less blockbuster, like, come see this movie
Yeah.
than it used to be, right? I think there's less and some movies come out, I didn't even know they come out. Like, I think there's a new Godzilla movie that came out. It's supposed to be pretty good, but it wasn't even on the radar. And as we go into this holiday season, honestly, like, I don't really even know what's coming out most of the time. Um, and then once they do come out, I don't really mostly care. So
Yeah, we used to go similarly. I mean, I used to look forward, like there was a series of movies that would come out on Christmas Day, and
yeah,
in the
yeah,
afternoon or the evening, you'd go out and hit the movie, or closely thereafter. It used to be a big thing. I do, COVID obviously had a huge impact on that, but and then of course we had the strike here, the actor strike, the director or the screenwriters strike, and or the Screenwriters Guild strike, and a lot of those things have had an impact on what's being released, but I just don't like have that draw. We used to like all those Marvel movies or all
yeah.
those big budget movies. We'd go to the IMAX theater and want to watch those. I just don't have that draw anymore. And I don't know if it's because I'm more comfortable with streaming and bigger TVs in your house and whatever. But there's just also, I just don't feel like the quality is out there. I mean, the other thing is you used to be able to go and see a good comedy. I mean, remember all those
Yeah.
Adam Sandler movies, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. I saw those in the theater
Yeah.
and multiple times. The state of comedy is the point where they don't even get released in the theaters anymore, it seems like. There was that Jennifer Lawrence movie, it was a little raunchy comedy where she was effectively hired to be somebody's girlfriend and mature him as a
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
But that had decent reviews in the theater, but still only made a low amount of money. And Disney has been struggling at the box office, but it's an interesting time. Andy, there is one movie that has started hitting the headlines lately. Um, it's called Civil War. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Oh, you just messing around with sound. See, this is where you mess me up here, Andy. So there's a movie called Civil War coming out. I, Interesting concept, interesting elements of it. Effectively, the states, what it sounds like from the trailer, the states of Texas and California have joined up
Yeah.
to uh, rebel against the United States, and they are also working with Florida. So it seems unusual. It's a kind of farcical that California, Texas, and Florida would team up for anything.
Yeah.
But here we are. That's why we have a movie, and it's a civil war against the United States. So interesting concept at an interesting time, Andy.
Yeah.
That's what's getting a lot of news buzz. Have you seen this, Andy? And what do you think?
So yeah, so I mean, so a few thoughts when I was watching it. So timeliness wise, right, could be an interesting movie, right, in the sense that there have been calls from different corners of politics and the internet, on the idea of a national divorce, right, which is such a lazy thought
Yeah,
to politics, right? I mean, if your thought is I'm not happy with who's been elected or the general direction of our country, let's separate into a different union. Like that's such a I don't know, Dave. It's such a pussy's approach to politics, right? I'm
yeah,
going to take my ball and go home. So that's pathetic. So so it's playing off of that to some extent, perhaps. Okay, I mean, that could be interesting to a certain extent. What I hope it isn't, and I'm guessing it's not based on that alignment that you described, right? The California, Texas, Florida nexus. I hope it doesn't become a cartoonish, mawkish, hey, these are Trump guys, basically, starting a civil war against the government of the United States. That would be unfortunate because you don't want something that's going to be really like divisive and make
yeah.
one group of people, whatever they are politically, geographically, whatever, look like they're bad guys, right? That would be an equally lazy approach to movie writing. And I don't think that's what it is from what I can see. I hope it's not, right? Because I think the idea of division, like I like that because I think people don't appreciate how messy and awful that would actually be, right? One, it's what some of our foreign adversaries want, right? So I'm not supportive of anything that Vladimir Putin would like to see, right? Two, we just don't need that kind of like a civil war would be absolutely devastating. I think there's a line in the trailer that the female journalist talks about how she kind of like hoped that would never happen in the United States, and it would be an absolute disaster if anything like that ever did happen. And there's some people that support it, and those same cowardly voices, to be honest, would never be the ones to engage in the combat. But anyway, so a lot of different thoughts on it, Dave. Hopefully, it's not awful. I'll say one thing: I do like the casting of Nick Offerman as president. Nick Offerman played probably one of my top five show characters of all time, and Ron Swanson. Love that character. I think he'll probably make a good movie president. So that could be really cool. But I'll stop there, Dave.
Yeah, well, we may have to, do a movie review of this one. And I'm going to be interested to see where it plays out too. With regards to like a civil war, like I think that is such a lazy man's approach to things. Yeah, let's have red versus blue states. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, look, you get to that. Let's walk that one quickly through. Red versus blue states, there's not all one flavor of red, there's not all one flavor of blue. And I can tell you, if you ever thought that was going to be a successful way to govern and you were just going to be some happy utopian society now that you're red
yeah,
or blue, I got news for you. It's not going to work, people. And so, like, the best thing about this democracy is that we are so diverse and
yeah,
we can bring those special skills and traits to our government. And look, it's a tough time, but we've had tough times in the past, and there's been I don't think we're any tougher today than we were back then. And so let's just really think about it before we engage because it would be brutal. Andy, both you and I have been in combat situations. It is not pleasant. It is
yeah.
not good for anyone. And nobody comes out victorious on that side, regardless of what you may think. So, Andy, we'll put a bow on that one and we'll just wrap that thing up. As we wrap up this entire pod and we wrap up the week, Andy, any parting, I guess, things you're doing? Anything to end on here?
Dave, also, we talked about not liking, distributed football games, but I am excited for the Lions to play Saturday night in a very consequential game tomorrow night. The Lions need to win a couple football games here to win the division, and We'll see if that works out. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, it's Friday, so I'm looking forward to seeing what new music is coming our way today. Last week, some Guns N' Roses released an old track that hadn't been released before. That was kind of fun to listen to, and it's always fun to hear Axl Rose, who I saw live and is still fantastic live, by the way. But so we'll see what New Music Friday brings to us today. Maybe share that a little bit on Monday's podcast. We'll see. But looking forward to getting into the weekend. We've been talking about Christmas time. My kids are home. I'm very excited about that. So, happy early holidays to everybody again. And I'm good. Have a good weekend. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, same. My kids are coming home today and tomorrow, so I'm excited about that and looking forward to having a family home. My wife has made all their favorite treats and has got all their favorite foods ready and lined up here. So we'll go with that, Andy. But I am looking forward to having that. So, Andy, it was a pleasure this week. We have a lot to get into next week, and I think with that, I'll catch up with you next time.